What are some good first date questions to get to know someone? What unresolved childhood trauma will emerge through maladaptive behaviors as we spend more time together? What was your first pet's name? What was your second grade teacher's name? What was the make and model of your first car? What is the name of the road you grew up on? What city were you born in? Then read all their emails and DMs. Good way to get to know someone. On our first date, my husband and I did a thing where one of us would choose a year, then we'd both say what we were doing in that year of our lives. It was a great way to get to know each other. Can anyone give an answer on how to get a first date? Let's not put the cart before the horse. OkCupid had a really cool blog about statistics from their huge user base. The 3 questions they found were best predictors for compatibility. 1. Do you like scary movies? 2. Have you ever traveled alone in another country? 3. Wouldn't it be fun to chuck it all and live on a sailboat? If you agree on those 3, you're likeliest to succeed. Edit. Because a lot of people are missing this and it's bumming them out. Let me say again, agreeing on these questions correlates with success. Your answers yes or no do not matter, how well they match your partner's answers does. Also, yes, it is just a correlation, not a hard guarantee. There are millions of happy couples that disagree on all 3. Some other fun bits from that article: if you want to know if your date is religious, ask how they feel about spelling mistakes. Higher tolerance of spelling mistakes correlates strongly with being religious. If you want to know if your date is DTF, ask her if she likes beer. There is a strong correlation between the 2. If their name is an uncommon one, make sure you ask what's the correct pronunciation. Literally the first thing I said to my husband on our first date was hello, followed by a butchered attempt to say his name. He replied, "What did you just call me?" And up until that moment, I had never before felt the urge to jump into the nearby creek in mid-February. Ask them who their favorite Muppet is. If they choose anyone other than Gonzo, explain why they are wrong and then leave. Lots of hypothetical situation questions. I find they help you understand how they think and prioritize their lives. E.g., if you could travel anywhere in the world for W month, all expenses paid, where would you go? What would you do? Your parents are about to be executed. You are given a chance to save only one of them. Which one do you choose? Bonus points if you follow up with what's your favorite ice cream flavor? What do you like doing in your free time? I never asked about people's jobs. I didn't really care how they got their money. I cared how they got their excitement and passion. Have you ever had a dream that you had to, you could, you do, you would, you wa, you could do so, you could, you wanted them to do you so much you could do anything? Fun. Open-ended questions that lets them talk about them a bit. Stuff like, what are your political leanings? Are you religious? What is your stance on the Armenian genocide? I take it you're trying to date and are nervous? Honestly, there is no rule book questions you should really abide to. Just get to talking. Start off with small talk openers like, where did you go to school? Where do you work? Do you like this and that? Eventually you'll get around to talking about hobbies/experiences. You can tater off and then talk about your own experiences and just ping pong off of each other. Eventually you get a pretty good feel of that person as genuine or fake. That's how most conversation starts sounding natural with a good flow. Of course, if you get somebody that sees you and finds you butt ugly, then you won't get any responses at all. And any questions you ask would lead to no information about them. I don't know if it's good for a date, but it's fun to ask strangers, what's your favorite compliment? It gives you a lot of information and I think it starts the conversation pretty easily. The irony of all these hilarious answers is that you could probably use literally any of these questions on a first date and they'd most likely laugh, which by nature makes them good questions to ask even though they are intended to be bad ones. ITT joke answers are meta AF. Do you put your toilet paper on the holder with a loose end over or under? That'll tell you all you need to know about that person. What's your favorite random fact? What's the most spontaneous thing you've done? What's your worst cooking disaster? What would be the hardest thing for you to live without? Who do you pick in Mario Kart? From my experience, the boring ones picks one of the Mario brothers while the basic ones pick one of the princesses or Yoshi. Are your fingerprints in the police database? In millimeters. How long are your toenails before you decide to cut them? Do you keep the remains? Do you have any pets you aren't using anymore? How do you feel about basements? Which bodily fluid do you think has the most pleasant aroma? Which layer of skin do you favor the most? My cat died 6 years ago. Wanna see? I read a LPT earlier today that stated if you're taking someone on a dinner/movie date, go to the movie first. That way, at dinner, if the conversation is lacking or having a hard time starting up, you can get it going with talking about the movie. Seems easy enough to get a conversation flowing, especially if you're feeling nervous. Good luck. If I called you and told you that I killed my neighbor and I need help getting rid of the body, would you A. accept with no questions, ask B. call the police, C. start your oven and ask how much they weighed? On the most recent first date I went on with a Tinder match, one of us asked which shows we were currently watching and which ones were on a to-watch list. That took us down a rabbit hole of conversation about same/similar shows watched, movie and music tastes, sports, etc. So I think with something as simple and everyday as a TV show, as was in our case, can tell a lot about a person and keep the conversation going. And by the way, I should mention that this Tinder match and I have been together for a year and a half now. Do you like your babies with tomato sauce and mayonnaise or salt and vinegar? I personally don't like the smell of vinegar. What are you looking forward to? Always gets a good answer. And it's usually something unexpected. I would just give a brief overview of who you are as a person, how you become who you are, and generally that would lead to the other person telling a bit about themselves. Then you just base your questions kind of around those talking points. Pretty simple. Focus less on what you're saying and more on what they are saying. Show that you're listening. Add related comments that aren't attempting to one-up them. And add continuing questions as needed. The conversation should flow, not be a mechanical exchange. That being said, favorite movies or last TV show they binged is pretty universal and can be quite revealing. Similarly, what podcasts they listen to could yield some commonality or offer some tangent topics. Ask to see a picture of her mom/family. She thinks you're getting to know her on a personal level, while you get to see what she will probably look like in the future. Don't ask questions. Play board games with them. You'll get to know how they react to winning/losing/cheating/stealing. And you will have something but each other's faces to talk about. How do you see yourself dying? Really brings out the interesting, or boring, side of people. If you had a whole day full of plans and before they even get started, all of it get cancelled for some reason, what would you do? I think this can spark a lot of follow-up questions and also tell about that person what would they do in a situation where they are completely free. Someone freaks out and starts to make new plans. Someone takes it as a blessing and chills the day, uses it for his/her hobby, etc. What's getting you through the week? You find out what makes them happy and what's important to them. Family education plan/work hobbyist travel history's favorite movie analysis. Why is always a good one. Try to avoid yes or no questions or questions with one-word answers. Keep things open-ended and it will help keep the conversation flowing. Great. For the socially awkward like me, this will be a questioning date, where I consistently bombard her with questions with the intention to get to know her. But instead it will be me interrogating her. My favorite was always, what are you passionate about? So much better than what do you do? One of my favorites was, who do you think would win an arm wrestling contest? George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? I always used it to gauge understanding and general knowledge of history, how they think on their feet, and in general. Are they imaginative and a good sport? If you had to combine any two animals into one, what would they be? And what would it look like? I swear by this one as a first date question. It gives people an opening for a funny/odd question. And to be a little bit goofy. Which can sometimes be the hardest part of a first date. Then you can riff off their answer for more conversation. A sloth and a camel? Would it look like a sloth with little humps on their back? Would it look like a camel with sloth fur, but walk super slowly? You can poke fun at their choices, debate the finer points of superior combinations, and fantasize about what it would look like. Added bonus that if they just go "that's weird, I don't know" and drop it, you've got a really solid indication that this person isn't very imaginative, and can't drop their armor to be goofy for a second. My boyfriend's answer was a giraffe and an elephant, body of a giraffe, elephant head, which I was a great answer.